I am going to talk about making your tray. I want to show you, you can see the tray here. First, I have to apologize. I sent you a stencil that is not on this tray that says to quench your thirst. You can still use it and put a glass there, but you're missing this stencil here for your friends too. I am so sorry. I am going to get that stencil to you right away. So I am so sorry about that, but you can go ahead and use this, find a place on your board for it. So the first thing, you have all the different stencils. I would lay it out first, just so you get an idea of all your pieces of where you want things to go. I try to avoid where the board separates, but it's not a problem. You can still do it. You just have to be a little bit careful about it. So I've started some things so I can kind of show you so this video isn't too long. Here are your stencils, and this right here is the transfer tape. It's white. The back, this is the backing of it, and the stencil is actually blue. So this piece I can see will be easy. I can just pick up this transfer tape here. So the first thing you're going to do, for some reason it works better if you go to the back and pull the back, not the front. So I'm going to pull this back piece of the stencil, not the transfer tape. So there you go. Sometimes I have to use a pin if it's hard to separate them. So I'm going to take off the back, and when you're working with a stencil, you want to stay low and pull really down low. And if you want, before you start, you can take a credit card, that works the best, and you can just rub it so that everything sticks. And as I'm pulling and I'm staying low, if part of the blue, I want some blue to come up if it will, if some of the blue like this, the center of this A came up on this backing, I would just push it down and then kind of push it again. Or you can grab with your finger, if part of this E was coming up on this white here, the backing, I would take my finger and hold it down. You just want to make sure that no blue will end up on this backing. And just stay really, really low and just go really slow. See right here, that E came up. So I'm going to put it back, the center of the E. Now I'll probably turn it over, and I'm just going to rub it with the credit card. You have a popsicle stick, but that doesn't work as well. I like credit cards, but I didn't think it was a good idea to use my credit card on a video. Okay, so now the E stayed down. So that was perfect. That was a good example. And then you will lay it where you want it. This isn't real sticky, so if you set it down, you can pick it up a little bit and move it if it wasn't the spot you wanted. I kind of look at my piece. I try to avoid knots. You can't always avoid knots, but kind of look to where you think it might look best. So I'm just going to put mine right here. And I just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so right there. I'll put it down, then I'll use that credit card again. And you don't have to push the outside, but everything right here in the stencil, you want to push down. Okay, so now it's time to take off the transfer tape. I can see there's a starting point right here, so I can pull it real easily. If I didn't, sometimes I'll take a pin and I'll just get that so that the transfer tape starts. I have a little starting point there to grab onto. So again, you're going to stay low and go slow. If anything comes up, then you're going to push it back down. We'll see if anything comes up. If that A came up, I would just push it back down and rub again. And then you're just going to pull it, go slow, and keep it low. If you pull up, it tends to pull more of the stencil with the transfer tape. There's that E that came up, so I'm just pushing it down. I'm using my finger. If that didn't work, I would use the credit card, and I can always use my finger to keep it down. Perfect. So that part's done. Then I just, with my finger, I just go and I just make sure everything is down tight. And there you go, the stencil is ready. Okay, and I have some that I've already started. I tried on your pieces to have extra blue right here, and some of mine it's tight, and you can see right here. I was afraid when I use my sponge to dip that I might get part of that yellow on my board. So you can use masking tape, you can use Scotch tape, just kind of any place where it's too close that I might get paint on my board. I just put a piece of tape there. Right here I felt like that was pretty close to my tree. Here I have a lot of room, but here I didn't, so I just put tape down just to be careful. And when you're doing the carrot, I put tape here because I know that's going to be green. So I usually use 3 coats of paint, and this is the tricky part. You want to get your paint, and then you can use Saran Wrap, tin foil, anything, and just a piece of paper, and just dab a little paint off. And you're going to go up and down and dab your stencil. If you start doing this, the paint will go underneath the stencil and you'll have a mess. And the first coat is going to look ugly. Pretty much the second coat looks ugly because you don't want a lot of paint. When you start using a lot of paint, then it can slip underneath the stencil. And it does get a little bit boring, but just walk away if you have other things to do or work on another piece. And then right here, I'm done. But try to just bounce it up and down and not have a lot of paint on your sponge. Here, this is going to be the last coat of the deer, because I've done a couple coats ahead of time so that this video isn't too long. And I'm just going to dab it. And when you think it's the last coat, don't wait for the paint to dry. As soon as I believe this is my last coat, so I'm going to go ahead and take the stencil off while the paint is wet. That helps, otherwise sometimes it chips a little bit. So the paint is still wet, and I did 3 coats, and then I'm just going to slowly take that off. And there you have the stencil. Then I'm going to show you something on this. And that's true with the tree and the star. This will be my last coat. And you just dab up and down. Then I'm ready to take this off. Then I'm done with that stencil. And then if you look on this, I have dots and stars for the tree in this. And how I do that is I will take, you have a paintbrush here, I will take this and let me get some white. I would wait till it dries, but this is a video, so, and you can just dab it on your star. Sometimes I have some paint markers, real fine line paint markers, and then sometimes I'll draw on it with lines. And then for the tree, you can actually, if you want, I would still do another coat here, but to make stars, you can just use this pin and just make some stars if you want. Or you can use different color paint and you can put lights on your tree. And you can mix this paint. You can use any paint that you have at home. I like using this paint, but again, I will put poly on the end. So here, the orange is finished. I would make sure it's dry. Take my tape off, and if it's dry, then I would put the tape back here, and then I could stencil my green. I feel like this might be a little bit close, so once again, I'm just going to put tape there just so I don't get any on the wood. And then put some in the paint and then dab it off, and then just put the green, dab the green on, and then I would let that dry and come back and do another coat. And you can kind of tell when you think it's ready, but just sometimes on your last coat you get a little bit impatient and you put too much on. Try not to do that. And with this tray, you can set it up any way you want, but I would lay it out first so that you know where everything goes. And here, red you have to be careful with. Red, it kind of stands out, so I'm real careful with red when I put it on that, you know, I just do a small amount. And as you pull off the stencil, you can even use this back if you like to dab the paint. And then you're just gonna, just a light coat up and down. And if you need to, you can always dab, and you think that's too much, you can dab up there. But just up and down, that's all it is. And then on your third coat or second coat, then when it's wet, you'll just peel that right off. Sometimes, let's see if I can, you have a pin in your kit. When you take off the stencil, sometimes, like this A, I'll pull off the stencil. That A is going to stay. And sometimes there's a lot of paint on it because I've stenciled it. I'm going to take a little bit more off. So after I do my 3 coats, I take the stencil off. The inside of this A, E will still be there. And don't worry about it. You just pull the stencil, whatever comes, comes. Then you can go back. And I kind of do it while the paint is wet. And very carefully, kind of stick your pin. You don't want to stick the wood because you'll see it. And I just kind of stick it. And then, I don't really want to pull this off because I'm not finished. And you'll just, it does come off pretty easy. And then you just pull it off like that. And then, but I still need it because I haven't finished the stencil yet. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Then after you're all finished, and with the nose, I just eyeballed it. I took the black. If you have a paintbrush at home that's wider, you can have bigger eyes. If it's too big, you can always dot there first and then come over. So this one I want kind of a bigger circle. So I'm just going to make a dot. If I wanted it bigger, I could make another dot with it. Just kind of move it around. And then when that's dry, I'll just take a dot of white and put on there. Same with the nose. You can use a toothpick, you can use a brush, and I just kind of drew the nose on there. And that's all there is to it. And when your tray is all finished, you're going to use some poly. You have some poly in your kit, and I would use this foam brush. This paint can chip. If it's stacked on something else, it can peel. So I like to use the poly. So in here, after everything is totally dry, you're just going to poly your piece. And I like to do a really thin coat, let it dry, then come back and do another coat. And that's all there is to it. Then after you're all done with poly, you can screw in your handles here, and your tray is ready to go. And you can put real cookies here. You can put carrots on Christmas Eve. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, just email me, maryjobrown7@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And enjoy. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you. Bye-bye.